Really. Yes?
Where does the impulse come? I presume it comes from one of the not-I's, but I can't see immediately where it comes from. The impulse where there's a problem, one perceives, and actually you find yourself doing things to make sure there is a problem, and I don't want that problem to go away, and is it perhaps not a real problem? Oh yes, it is a problem. And I mean, I have a problem with noise, for example, and I will actually be not quite sure whether there is a noise that's bothering me or not, and I will get up and be quite sure whether I can hear what it is and where it's coming from. I'm fully aware of how ridiculous and grotesque this behavior is, but I'm looking for trouble. I want it to be trying to make quite sure that I know what it is.
Actually, it's not I that wants that. It's how they eat. Do you know what not I's eat?
Trouble?
No. Emotion. They eat fear. They eat anger, they eat depression, they eat boredom. All these emotions that we feel are what keeps them going, is their fuel. So what they do is they con real I into constantly reporting emergencies, life or death situations to X. So X will provide energy to the body, which is what X does. It provides whatever the awareness needs. And they turn it into an emotion, which keeps their little machine ticking away. Anger, fear, guilt, insecurity, jealousy, revenge, hatred, all these things are their food. If you ever woke up and said, you know, I'm sick and tired of these emotions, I'd like a little joy. I'd like a little peace. They would starve to death. And to be honest with you, that's my recommendation. Starve them to death. In your name, they're ordering up from the source of all things in abundance and converting it into putrid garbage. So you're right. If you don't have a problem, they'll find one. Because they got to keep you in that state of emergency, so you'll be ordering up energy and turn it into their food. They'll just make one up.
I've noticed the same with depression. If I'm feeling bad, I'll tell myself, look, this is enough, get over it, let's do something, let's do something else that will help us to get
Fix
over
it.
And I noticed that, but that sometimes works, or gives you an impression
It sometimes works.
of working for a while. And I'll notice there's a resistance on my part to getting over how bad I feel. I actually want to go on feeling bad.
Yeah, I can understand that there is a part that says, no, I want to keep this.
Right.
There is a good reason for that, you know.
No, what is
Pity is a substitute for love, and that's what depression is feeling sorry for yourself. It's a pity party.
Right. Sure.
Self-pity is sometimes the only thing that we can get that makes us feel loved.
Right. So we don't want to let go.
That's right, because then I wouldn't be loved anymore.
Right.
Piss poor substitute, if you ask me.
Sure.
But that is the way that we experience it. When someone pities us, we feel loved. It ain't my definition of love, but that is our impression. Okay? But if I'm being pitied, I'm being loved. That's part of the school thing, is to maybe, when those things happen, see if I can, instead of listening to them that say, fix it, get out of it, sit there. So I can experience a depression. What the hell is this? What can I see about this? What am I doing? What is going on, you see, and understand it. Today we use a clinical psychological term for a very simple thing that's been known for thousands of years, of course, called pity, self-pity. Who amongst us knows the symptoms of depression?
Most people do.
Huh?
Do you think most people do? I mean, there's been...
No.
Oh, okay.
No, you don't tell if you know, and we'll see how many people can tell us the symptoms of depression.
Lowered...
No, I said you don't, because you know. You said most people do. Let's check this out.
Sorry.
I think I might know a couple. Sleeping too much or not sleeping well. Loss of appetite.
That's two?
Apathetic.
No, that's depression. That's just another word for the same thing. I said symptoms.
What's that, John?
Confusion.
No, that ain't one of them.
Less activity.
What do you think of your theory now, Phil? That most people do know what the symptoms are. I don't think most people do know what the symptoms are.
I agree. I've just seen a lot about it.
Sure, so have I. I like interesting. But my point is, this is a clinical term for a pathological state. And we're using it to describe something called pity, self-pity. Depression is a clinical term for somebody who's been in self-pity so long they developed severe chronic symptoms of self-pity. You don't get depressed.
For lack of love?
What's that?
For lack of love?
No, I think people have a billion reasons for getting depressed. I wouldn't want to say why. I think they got lots of reasons. That's a pretty common one, yeah. But we started using this clinical word so we could hide what we're doing, because it sounds really ugly when you say, I'm feeling sorry for myself today. How much sympathy are you going to get for that? You go up to your friends and say, I'm feeling really sorry for myself today. And they say, well, get over it. But you tell them you're depressed, and you'll just get all the sympathy and pity in the world, won't you? Oh, you're depressed. Because they don't know what you mean anymore by that term either. We don't even know what the word means. We've done that with so many words. We took away the descriptive ones that would say what it really is and replaced it with some word we don't even understand. And now you can use it to get some attention and approval and a little comfort. They'll hold you and cuddle you for a second and whisper sweet words of nothing in your ear, isn't that right? And make you feel real important for a while because you're feeling sorry for yourself. But if you told them that, they'd probably just say, come back when you're feeling better. That's goofy. I ain't feeling sorry for you too. So it would be interesting, instead of giving in to that not-I urge to always fix everything, to just say, I can experience this and look and see what it is. Look for the illusions in the experience. And of course, one of the greatest is always, I can't experience this freely. And I'll say, yes, I can. I'm going to freely experience this, and I'm going to look at it, and I'm going to see what it is. And then after a while, you realize all you're really doing is feeling sorry for yourself. That's all depression is. Don't try to fix things. Don't try to solve these problems. They're just made up. They're illusions. They don't exist. Or better said, they're symptoms of the only problem you have. You're trying to do the impossible. You're trying to be non-disturbed. Everything else is a symptom. And I believe that they say that if you treat the symptoms of a disease, you're going to lose the patient. Isn't that what they say? So why are you sitting around treating the symptoms? Every problem that the not-I's come up with is a symptom of desiring the non-existent. That's all. Why else would you feel sorry for yourself except because you're not getting enough attention and approval and appreciation and comfort right now? What other reason is there? Or you're getting a little bit too much rejection or disapproval, you see? What other reason is there to feel sorry for yourself but that? Every time I ever looked when I was feeling sorry for myself, that was the bottom line. I'm getting too much disapproval. I think I'll sit and feel sorry for myself for a while. That'll fix it. Then the people will approve of me. Freely experience while looking and using the teaching to say, can I understand this? understanding the truth of the situation will set me free from it. Now, if you see this for yourself the next time you're depressed, that all you're really doing is feeling sorry for yourself, you think it might be a little more difficult to maintain your little self-pity party? See, the truth sets you free. If you can't lie and call it some clinical disease, and you just sit there and say, oh my God, I'm doing it again. I'm feeling sorry for myself. It gets a little ludicrous, doesn't it? Well, then get your butt up off of the bed and do something. But don't sit here and feel sorry for yourself. My life is just miserable. Nobody loves me. I'm going to the garden to eat worms. I'll show you. Okay, that's using the teaching, okay? In the midst of everything that you do, you're looking for these ideas, you're looking to see what everything is. You're doing your job. What is this? What is true? And what's valuable? Okay? We want to observe as close to 100% of the time as we can. Observing doesn't mean you stop being a participant. It means you're in the middle of participating. There's a part of us that can observe in the midst of any activity. Okay, that can just sit there and be an observer to this and learn from it and see what's going on. And it's very close to that part that can be real in the midst of any activity and not get lost in it. Not fall asleep in the middle of it and become the activity, okay? That's another thing I like to remind people, that in this culture that is considered the height of experience, isn't it? Is to die in the middle of what you're doing and stop existing. To get so engrossed in whatever you're doing, right? That all that's going on is you're just the activity itself. Isn't that the height that you've been told of what you should be doing? You should be so engrossed in it that you just simply vanish, and all that is there is whatever is being done. Isn't that what we're told? That's the height of the human thing, is to be so excited about something that you die in the midst of it. Yes, ma'am. I know we're probably contradicting another Buddha thing, huh?
No.
Okay, good.
I was wondering who's doing the observing.
Not I.
Yeah,
It's not the real I.
It's not the real I.
No.
No.
No. It's just another not I.
It's another I.
Yeah. So what? If you really want to observe the self 100% of the time, X will set up a not I that does nothing but that for you, just like you set up all those others you decided you wanted. Just like you set up a not I that never lets you forget that complaining will get you your way. He'll set up a little not I that never lets you forget to observe. If you really want to do it and you decide that with feeling, okay? And it's actually a not I that observes. And it reports to the awareness the same way all the other not I's yap at the awareness, okay? What it sees. But the awareness can use that information. Okay? And hopefully, unfortunately, the awareness is not strong enough to do the observing itself right now. It's just too malnourished. So hopefully, as it starts to use what the observer reports to it, it grows and comes to a place called self-knowing, where it's just aware of self all the time.
And that's the awareness.
That is the awareness. Only the awareness can do self-knowing. And not I can do self-observing. Only awareness can do self-knowing. Because that's where I see the self kind of as a whole. not the little bits and pieces of the knot eyes yapping at me continuously, which is what the observer sees. It'll tell you this knot eye's saying that, and then this one's saying that. The awareness can kind of see it as a whole, and just see this thing called the self, and be aware of it all the time, kind of beyond words, without needing words to say this is what it's doing. Words are too slow.
And that's different than the chooser.
Yes. Chooser is all those thoughts that run through the head. Claim that they're trying to make a decision about something. Yes, sir.
So in a sense what you're saying, if I understood correctly, is that if one tries to introduce too many tries to fix these disturbances, you end up you end up being the cause for all these symptoms.
Well, you're sure contributing to it. I'd say that. I don't know if you are the cause, but you're sure contributing to it going on, yeah. Yeah, I think you got the idea. I wouldn't say it quite that way, but I think you got the idea, yep. Let it run. Sit in the middle of it and freely experience it for a few weeks or months or whatever it takes you to see it. And then move on. This is just the beginning. What I see happening is this thing that we around here call self-improvement. I want to make it better because I start to look at it and I don't like what I see. So I want to make it better. And so as a result, something that with hard work could take 6 weeks, that if you're kind of lazy might take you 6 months, ends up taking 4 or 5 years to do. Because you're not doing it. You're trying to fix it. How can you see what a situation is if you're changing it? Would you explain that to me? If I wanted to study a marsh, would I go in and dry up the water? And say, I don't like marshes, I think I'll move the river that's making it and then study it that way because I don't like water? I don't like getting my feet wet? I don't think that would be a proper way to study a marsh, do you? Fix it so it's comfortable to study in? But unfortunately now it's gone. I think you just sort of got to let it sit there and do its thing in front of your eyes, isn't that right? And study it. Learn what it's doing. See if you can discover freedom in the midst of it. It's there. Yes, sir.
You also alluded briefly yesterday to another practice, namely being aware of the fact that all the physical things you do are that they aren't things that you are doing or that you know how to do, and the text does that. Should we do both of these at the same time, or do you want us to do one and then the other?
If you're able to do them both at the same time, do them both at the same time. If you're not, then do them separately.
Okay.
It's a question of ability, okay, not should. If you try them both at the same time and you have a lot of trouble remembering, and then separate them and do them for a while. Eventually, it would be nice if we could do them at the same time.
Right.
But I don't see any reason to put stress on a person by saying you have to do this and you have to do that and you have to do it all at once and so on. You judge by your own abilities.
Okay.
And kind of like cleaning up the house. Has your house ever gotten so messy because you're just lazy for a while, that you look at it and you say, I can't even start? Kind of like that. Sometimes the only way to get it done is pick one room and start there. Isn't that right? I mean, if you work out long enough, the house gets cleaned up. But if all you do is sit there and say, it's so messy that I can't even decide to start because the task just daunts me, then I guess the house will just get messier, won't it? So, be nice to yourself, okay? Pick the bathroom first. It's small. And start there, And once you kind of get the bathroom done, you're sort of in the swing of things, isn't that right? And then maybe the kitchen won't seem so daunting, and you can go do that next, you see? It's just like any other physical activity. If it's really big, then start somewhere and work at it, and the task gets smaller and you get stronger from doing it. But don't try to take it on all at once if you can't. Be gentle with yourself, okay? Yes, ma'am.
I tend to judge my bad behavior, what I call my bad behavior, like if I'm impatient with someone, and that, when I observe those things, when you talk about self-improvement, obviously if I'm
Grow up. I mean, what are we, children, that we can't have our feelings hurt?
Well, I just snapped at that when you said that. The other thing is that I feel bad because I lose their approval when I snap at them.
Right. Then they hurt our feelings back.
And then I feel bad because I lose their approval.
So I would say with something like impatience, go ahead, let the not eyes be impatient and observe it and see if you can understand what's going on with it. See if you can get to the truth of it. Okay? There's a reason for being impatient.
They disturb you or,
Find out. Don't do it up here with theories and guesses. Experience it and see what they're actually doing.
What I mean by they is the other person.
I know.
See what they mean, see what they're doing.
You see the actuality of it, not the theory of it. Even the teaching ideas describe a theory until I see it actually work out. Now I got the practical experience of it, and now I can make it real, okay? So take that thing called impatience, the way that you do it, which may not be quite the way somebody else does it. We can come up with a zillion theories for why, and observe and see what it actually is. And when the guilt comes up, observe that and say, what is this guilt? Describe it. See if you can get to the truth of the matter, okay?
Like which one of the not eyes.
Mm-hmm. But see, the difficulty is that I suppose the antidote to impatience would be patience. Is that right? Do you know what it takes to develop patience? I do. Patience is one of the attributes of real love. That's what allows you to be patient. You love the person so much that you're willing to just sit there with them no matter what it takes. That's the only thing that can let a person be patient in any way that matters. The only other thing that passes for patience on this planet is something that should be called tolerance. Mm-hmm. And there ain't nothing loving about tolerance. That's, I'm putting up with you.
Or indifference, like traffic, but some people...
I don't know if that's even... Well, okay, maybe. But real patience, that's what it is. Mm-hmm. It's an expression of inner love. It's one of the ways that love comes out when it's expressed. Okay? Personally, I'm the most impatient person in the world. And sometimes you see it real clearly. But much of the time, you don't even know it. It's because I've learned a little bit about loving. Okay? I never tried to fix impatience. But I did find the idea of loving real interesting, and I looked into it a bit, and I discovered that suddenly I was just being patient. I never tried. I never even wanted to. I'm in a hurry. I don't know about you. But it just sort of happened. So I do know what it takes to get patience. I think you'd be better off maybe learning about impatience, which is not the opposite of patience, interestingly enough, even though we think so in the words. Seeing what's there and getting to the place one day where maybe you could grow in love. And then maybe all these interesting attributes you think you ought to have now will just sort of be there. Because maybe a lot of them are just like patience. They're an expression of love. Okay? Yep.
If the nature of your work forces you to spend a lot of your time on your own.
It forces me?
All right. If you have chosen a line of work.
Thank you.
Which has as one of its consequences, a lot of solitude.
Yes.
Well, one could start doing things that would change that in order to...
I wouldn't do it with the work. Unless you really are willing to take that on.
Right. I don't want to.
I wouldn't do it with the work.
Right. But I'm trying to think of ways that one could do the, engage with this.
You ever heard of parties?
Oh, sure. Yes. I mean, I've already
You ever heard of
I've already thought of things.
cafeterias?
Right.
Coffee shops?
Right. But I was also thinking of ways of, when you're not necessarily on your own, still working with it.
Well, you can.
How useful is it working with a mentor child?
You can work with it on your own. Obviously, I mean nothing stops.
Right.
I'm just saying it's not as effective
Right. Right.
because the kind of mental machinery has a tendency to run in a habitual pattern, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Unless, of course, there's something outside that comes along and bumps it. And then it deals with that outside stimulus and goes into maybe some areas that it's not habitually in. So about the only thing we can deal with alone is the habitual pattern. And fine, you can deal with that, but how long is that going to take?
Very long or not very long?
Not if one is paying attention. I don't think it'll take too long to see whatever those habits are. It's all that other stuff that we get from interacting with people is totally unexpected and surprising that we need.
Well, then I think I've been working with a forced problem then because I think I was expecting that mentor chatter to change and to go away. And it hasn't.
No.
I know this.
No. And that's one of the reasons why it hasn't, by the way.
Right.
Maybe when I'm free to experience it, it might
Yeah.
quiet down a bit, okay? But I'll tell you about the best way I know of to get the mind real noisy is try to shut it out.
Right. It's very powerful. I mean, the same old boring obsessions, the same angry imaginary conversations with people. It's very tedious.
Because you're not free to experience it.
Right.
I'm perfectly free to listen to them having the same resentful conversations over and over and over again. You did this to me, and now I'm going to say this to you, and you're just a piece of crap because I don't care. I'm perfectly free to experience that. It's just noise. But it's not me. I know it's not me. And for a period of time, that can be quite interesting to see that resentment, okay? Just see that unnecessary hatred that's going on in the mind that uses up so much energy, and see if one can understand what's going on there freely, and maybe see through the illusion of resentment. So you can use that. That's why I say maybe the reason it won't shut up is because you loathe it. Not free to experience it. The mind shuts up when you alter state. Okay? When you get into higher states, it shuts up. In lower states, it just does that, and there's really nothing you can do about it.
Can you go to that example again? I mean, just a big example of sitting there, going through all that obsessive thinking, and just taking...
You want me to act out resentment again?
No.
Oh, good. Once was enough.
No, but just...
I might get the feeling this time.
I want to use that again and say, as a case of just observing it, because I think we all know that state, where someone's voting.
Yeah, I think...
So how do we take that step back,
Don't step back. Sit in it.
Don't try to fix it, that's one thing. Don't try to
Just
explore
let it run. Whatever it's thinking, you just sit there and listen. We're so busy trying not to experience it. That's what I was kind of saying earlier, you see. The fact is, we don't even know what it is. Because we've never sat through it once. All the way, and heard the whole thing. We hear the beginnings of it, and it upsets us so much. We immediately try to fix it. And we struggle against it, and we fight with it, and we've never heard it all the way through. What is the end of it? Do you know? Where does it go? All we ever hear is the beginnings of all sentences. We never hear the ends of them. Because before it gets to the middle, we're already trying to derail it and change it into something more pleasant to us, you see. And we don't even know what the end of the sentence is, so we don't know the whole thing. How am I going to see the illusion of something that I don't even have the whole of? You only got the beginning part that makes sense. It's at the end of the sentence where it sounds goofy.
But if our pattern is to then find another thing that distracts us,
then you'll never see the illusion in it. It'll always be real to you, and you'll always struggle with it. It'll always be upsetting, because you'll never get to the end where it looks stupid, where you see how funny and illusory the whole thing is, because you never let it get there. I'll give you an example. How many of you men cringe when a woman says, "I love you"? Do you know why? Yeah, it depends on whether you've gotten in her pants or not yet.
Because it sounds to one of the not-eyes as if it's an implicit appeal for you to say the same thing, and you're getting more nervous and anxious about being required to give that, or to...
That's the stock answer. That's the stock male, the stock belief about men.
Right.
I'm expected to respond in kind.
Right.
And I'm a man. What are you going to do that? What are you going to say, "I love you"? I'm a man. That's the stock answer, okay?
Right. Well, yeah, I don't... I wouldn't think it's so much of a macho fear of saying something like that as the...
No, I wasn't either, because I'm not particularly macho, am I? Okay, I can act out that role for a second, but I can't do it.
Right.
But, yeah, that sure. Whether you're a macho guy or not, I mean, there's that thing about men that we just can't say things like that, and it's a load of crap. Have you ever said it? Me too. It's a load of crap. But that's the kind of superficial belief that you get when you only see the beginning of something. Because the fact is, the reason why we have so much trouble with it is we know it's an unfinished sentence. We know what the end of the sentence is. We just never admit it to ourselves. You want to hear the whole sentence? Oh, it's lovely. I love you. Therefore, you are obligated to make me happy all of the time. And if you don't, I will make you miserable. That's the whole sentence. And we do it too. We men say that. When we do say I love you, we mean the same damn thing. We just don't usually say I love you. But we mean the same thing. So I'm not exempting us. I just know because men do have a little bit of trouble with those words, I could get that response. You see, we know it's an unfinished sentence because that's the way the not-eyes love. And it's horrible. You know that you're being invited to step into a prison and throw away the key. And you go, oh my God, what am I doing? And we don't like it because it's an unfinished sentence. That's what most people mean when they say, I love you. And that everyone wonders why everyone wants love, but when they get it, they run like hell. I've had that question from a lot of people. How come I want love so much, and then when somebody gives it to me, I run? Because you know the end of the story already. You played it out a couple times, and it's not much fun.
Can you repeat that? I love you, therefore.
I love you. Therefore, you are obligated to make me happy all of the time. And if you don't, I will make you miserable. Called an unfinished sentence. Now, if you could just say I love you and leave it at that, I'd be more than happy. to say I love you back, because that's where I want to leave it, okay? It's just, I love you. I don't know what you owe me. I don't know what I owe you. I love you, and that don't mean nothing. You know about this thing called unrequited love, right? That's where you love somebody and they don't return it. And you know how people get with that, right? Because their feelings give them rights. Huh. I have certain feelings for you. That gives me rights. You have to do something about it. Why? Haven't you ever loved anybody who didn't love you back? I have. How come my feelings give me the right to demand something from you? That's odd. But it's what the Not Eyes tell us, isn't it? We have screwball notions about this thing called love. We truthfully don't know the first thing about it. It's called unfinished sentences. One of the Not Eyes' favorite tricks is to lie by telling you a partial truth and then tacking a lie on the end. Because they know that that's a good suggestion, isn't it? If you can give a suggestion that seems to be true and then tack a falsehood on the end, you'll probably buy the falsehood after the truth, won't you? So it seems like they're telling the truth all the time because we never get to the end of the sentence where the lie's tacked on. We hear it, but what's called unconsciously. It's not aware. And that's what I'm asking you to do here, is take everything that you call the unconscious and make it conscious. Because you can do that if you want. All you got to do is just pay attention. Yes, sir.
Would that be like sort of buying the idea but without actually having experienced it?
I'm not sure I understand
Or
that.
if you tack on, you've got to put it on suggestion of truth, like it's like a bait line, get somebody on
Right.
line.
That's
And
exactly
you
right.
You buy that partial truth.
And now you're
You
hooked.
just go out.
That's right.
Okay.
And so whatever they say after that, you just unquestionably accept it as truth also.
Right.
And it's never even true. That's the funny thing. It's a partial truth that if you actually look at it is not true. Would you say that someone who makes that whole sentence loves you? No. So even the beginning of it wasn't true, was it? But it sounds like it could be, you see. So the fact is that everything the Not Eyes tell you is a lie. But they're smart enough, or canny enough, they're not smart, but they're like clever enough, to make the first part of it, the only part that you ever hear, sound reasonable. But even it's a lie. Okay? And the last part, by the way, comes as a picture. It doesn't come as words. It comes as an image, and most of us, it's like a subliminal image, you know. It flashes for 1,000th of a second, and you're completely driven by that image, but you don't even know what it is. That's where the lie is. Now, if you can get them to actually go all the way and say the whole thing, it's just goofy as heck. But most of the time, we're so caught up in the unpleasantness of the experience and that we change it before we can ever possibly see the whole thing and discover this is just a lie. There's no truth in this. You look at enough lies on a subject and you may see the truth. Okay? It's the only way I know of to get to the truth, when you're full of illusions. And I know it means a lot of work for a while. Yes?
So if you're in that context of sitting in your room doing your work, and maybe because of your...
Well, I do it too. I sit in front of a computer most of the day, you know. It's a pretty solitary pursuit. So I am in that context, yeah.
Well, and say you are somehow aware that you're kind of obsessive thoughts, which are, you know, just plain story.
I remember those, yeah.
So you suggest using this example, this latter example, that if one sits with them, observes them, doesn't deal with them, tries to kind of relax about it, you carry through to the end of it, and that it might follow that same pattern. That this, I can recognize that bit about obsessive stories, is that you hit on one that really has that spark of life. You know they were wrong, you know, and then you follow it out.
Okay, let's start with that. I know that they're wrong.
Well, right, they're blaming them, blah, blah, blah. It's all a construction. Still, that's the bait. Something's there that hooks you.
You see what we've done? We've like run with words right past something we could look at. That won't work. You've got to have awareness. When the not-I says, I know they're wrong, you've got to have the awareness to be sitting there, wait a minute. Where in the teaching does it says that I know they're wrong and they're stupid and so on? Now, wait a minute. What's going on here? How do I know they're wrong? You've got to stop there at the first sign of something worth paying attention to and not keep running your story anymore. You've got to get to the point where the illusion shows up and say, let me look into this. Okay? I know they're wrong. How do I know that?
Does it make me uncomfortable?
Do they know that? I can't peer into their heart. How are they peering into mine? Even if that's true, they're making me uncomfortable. Do they know that? Or are they doing just like me? Doing what they think is right and proper and justifiable? Seems perfectly reasonable to them. And they're just not noticing that it makes me uncomfortable. Their great sin is that for a moment they forgot me. And I've never done that to anybody, have I? So how do I know that they're wrong? That would be worth, just right there, I'd stop and say, okay, this story will repeat again tomorrow. I'm going to take this one little idea that's running by me. And I'm going to say, how do I know that? Let me check this out. Let me spend some time experimenting with knowing that people are wrong. What can I do to see if I know that? Well, hell, you might talk to them and ask them what was going on with them. The next time you see somebody doing something you're just convinced is wrong, don't judge or anything. Do it very, ask as if you're requesting information, don't attack. Just say, would you please explain to me what you're thinking? Why you're doing this? Best way I ever found to do that is ask me dumb. People love to feel superior to somebody else. Okay? If you act stupid and say, oh, please help me.
Columbo.
Yeah. But help, that's a good word too. Please help me. I really need help to see this and understand this. I just don't get it. Poor little me. People will feel so superior and they'll tell you the most deepest, darkest secrets. Things they would never tell anybody because they get to feel superior for a moment and help somebody out. And you might find out that when they tell you what was going on with them, they weren't so wrong after all. But how am I ever going to know if I won't take the time to find out? Okay? So, yeah, I just let it run. I pay attention. I use what I know.
I see that the point is not to just quiet down the chatter. It's actually to deal with what is truly there.
Yes. I want to make this picture of man mean something. I think I set this up for a reason, and it says the perception of the environment comes in, the awareness says what is true and valuable, and X responds appropriately. I would like to turn that game into something real. I would like to be one who can say, I can describe accurately what is going on in my world, and I can actually respond to it. With all the infinite intelligence of X, I can respond to this creatively with something that will probably be to the benefit of everyone involved. I want to make this game called being a human being worth something by taking what I know. I'm supposed to be shutting up now, I think. No, okay. Taking what I know of what a human being is and making it real. Okay? And that's what it says. My job is to see the truth and to put value on that truth so that all of life can respond to this moment through me. Isn't that what the picture of man says? That this vast, intelligent, living being, with my assistance, I might add, can respond to this moment with all that compassion and mercy and intelligence and all the 99 attributes of Allah, huh? Although there's really 100, did you know that? But anyway. All those things will get expressed through this form to the benefit of everyone involved. Everywhere I go. That's what I want to do. And I can't do that if I can't see what the hell is going on. Then X is going to be responding to something that doesn't exist because I let the non-eyes paint an illusion of reality, and poor X is out there doing exactly what's right for a picture that isn't there. I look like a boob, everybody else looks like a boob, and we sure as hell ain't doing something to the contribution of all that's going on here, you see. I want to do my job, in other words. I may do many other things personally for me, because I kind of like me. So I may just do all sorts of other little trippies that I don't even maybe talk about for me. But as far as what's going on here, I want to do my job. And describe to X very clearly what I'm experiencing and watch the incredible response that comes out from that. Okay? Yeah.
So in fact, there's a great deal more involved here than merely, for example, identifying the not I. Although that would be a good start.
You better believe it.
I've had in other words, I'm exploring the possibility that in my own attempt to do this, I've maybe been a little lazy or dishonest or something about it. Insofar as what I tend to do is, oh, there's a complaint. Oh, there's a, also self-improvement.
I don't think lazy and dishonest is a good word. I would say that you started there and maybe didn't see it's time to make it a bit more complete, more comprehensive, okay? But that's where you start.
Right, because finishing the sentence strikes me as being a richer exploration of this than merely putting a label on it, which can maybe end up being leaving you a little smug, or
I know what the knowledge
Just gets you out of the
doing.
problem, move on.
right.
Yeah, I do want to come to an understanding of what it is to be human. I want to use all this to create, in fact, in some places this is called the way of understanding and conscious intelligence, okay? We use understanding to make it possible for that incredible intelligence to use me. And you got to start with the simple stuff, so there's really nothing wrong with what you just said. For an awareness to be able to say, I can say, oh, there's a complaint, oh, there's a right, oh, there's pleasing, is in itself quite a feat. How many people do you think walking down on that street can do that? Even be aware of themselves long enough to even identify it, okay? But you're right, it's a starting place, and it's probably time to add something more to it. You've probably grown enough, developed enough, you can at least do this. Now you just keep adding things to it. That's what growth is, right? You develop a certain strength, and when you get strong enough to do that pretty good, you say, okay, I see something else I can add on. I'm going to do that. That makes sense? So I don't think we have to bring laziness and dishonesty into it, those derogatory terms, okay? I think that's the way it works. It's a natural growth process. I develop a certain strength, and then I look around in that space that creates, and I say, hey, look, there's more I could be doing. I think I'll do that now. And pretty soon I'll get so good at that that I'll have some spare time on my mental hands, and then I'll look around and say, hey, look, I see something else I could be doing. So I think that's just part of the game. Any other whatevers? No, I'm really glad that we had a chance to do more discussing and lecturing. That's great.
I'm not sure how to handle the example of, say, a physical problem. Knowing that, say, you've gotten yourself stressed out or out of balance, knowing that.
Wait a minute. I'd like to know this as well. How do we know that?
From symptoms and
See, I don't see it that way. The symptom is the balancing act. You're not out of balance. You can't be out of balance. If you're out of balance, you die. Those symptoms that you're calling, that is the thing that moves you back into balance again. Once you heal from whatever symptoms you've developed, you'll be back in healthy balance again. But you're always in balance, okay?
Still, the notion I have, good, that's helpful. Thank you.
Well, I think what you're trying to say is maybe you want to find a balance different than the one you got.
Yeah, well, I want to improve, but I want to improve myself, and I don't think that's necessarily a misguided self-improvement.
Why do you want to improve yourself?
Well, I want to have better energy, less physical discomfort, more clarity, sleep better, whatever it is.
So we list off a set of words that we believe sound pretty and desirable, and then we struggle to get there. What of the being? That's what I've been trying to say all weekend. What is the being that's trapped in this personality that has a whole list of words that is put on the pretty list and said, I got to get those before I do anything else?
I wonder whether it doesn't matter then.
Doesn't matter.
But so you're sick. I mean, let's talk about an illness. I mean, maybe. No, I don't want to talk hypothetically. I'd rather talk about
something that's real to you would be more useful.
Yeah, right. And physical anxiety, something. Actually, my ears have been ringing for a year. I'd like to get rid of it. I'd like to find out maybe how to turn that around. And
I'd be more interested in some of the other stuff than that, like lack of energy. That makes life real tough. I could live with one ear ringing. It's real tough to live when I don't have the energy to do the things that I want to do. That sounds a little, if we're going to take a list of things like that and say which ones would really bear dealing with, I'd look at that one first, because that's like undermining everything that I do, isn't it? So, what can I do to understand that, to understand where that lack of energy is coming from? Could I maybe sit down and instead of saying I should do something about it, experience it one day and see what's going on, whether it be physically, mentally, emotionally, or all, and try to see what it is before I try to fix it? And say, what is this about? Where is this coming from? I think otherwise any fix that you do is going to be treating the symptom that you've got, which is maybe being a little listless, okay, occasionally. I'm not saying all the time, I don't know. But if I can see what it's coming from, what it's balancing against, you see, that listlessness is a balance to something. All symptoms like that are a balance to something. You can deal with the thing it's balancing and move that, okay? And use some understanding and intelligence. That's why I'm trying to teach people how to learn, you see, is how to use understanding and intelligence. Because, sometimes there are things we need to take care of. But if we do it the not-I's way, we don't take care of it because we haven't developed the wisdom and understanding and intelligence to do it in a way that will really work. We end up just like the MDs, who look at your symptoms and give you some little druggie that relieves the symptoms, but you're just sick again tomorrow of something else. We haven't done anything, okay? So that's what I would do.
You have to take it to a point where you know the source somehow, but that's
well, you can get assistance. You don't have to. I mean, you can get assistance. But it would be interesting to do it oneself, because then one may be able to deal with many things like that at a later time. Getting assistance kind of puts you dependent on assistance, doesn't it? I think this is something that you could, in those times when it comes up, maybe sit with it and try to see what's going on emotionally and mentally that this is balancing with. But I will tell you one thing, there is a bit of a trick to it. Sometimes the source of it was 72 hours ago. So this is one case where you may have to look a bit back over time and say, what have I done in the last 3 days? And you might have to do this for a period of time and see when those symptoms come up. And again, look back over the last 3 days and see if you can find some common thing that's sitting there within the last 72 hours. That every time the symptom comes up, you notice there's a certain something going on in the life at the time that this is balancing, okay? Because it's not instantaneous. It takes up to 3 days before the symptoms show up. If they've become chronic, well, then you're going to have to kind of just pay attention.
Well, let's say it is chronic. Let's say it's a kind of...
Well, let's not say, because if we're going to say that, then I'm going to have to tell you something instead of you finding out for yourself. So I'm going to do that unless it's really chronic, because I don't like stealing the experience from people of finding out for themselves. So is it or isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, sure it is. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Okay.
And the solution, the solution I see, for example, is working with the body, doing yoga, something that promotes a better flow of energy, all these analytic things which...
You've probably tried and ain't working too good.
No, that I have. No, if anything, it may be an example of why haven't I done it, and that may be the problem to look at, but...
We're getting kind of carried away with words here. We're not saying much. What are you disappointed about? You don't have to say it, but I'll tell you that's what's generating this. Not dealing with that disappointment. That's what it's balancing against, okay? Answer that question and see if you can see what that is and experience that freely. Okay, I'm disappointed. Let me see the illusion in this disappointment. All right? And that's what it's balancing against, I suspect. Okay. Anything else? Okay. No.